Hey, Chef Ro here. Today I'm going to show you how to make a quick and dirty bechamel. Now traditionally bechamel is milk simmered with onion piquet, which is cloves and bay leaf pushed into an onion, and then you simmer the milk with it to flavor the milk, and then you put that with what's called a white roux, which is just fat and flour that hasn't really been cooked. That way it has a lot of thickening power, so bechamel is usually pretty thick. We're just going to do the milk, flour, and fat part of it. We're going to use it for macaroni and cheese, or this is also a quick and dirty Alfredo sauce, or the base for cream gravy. You can use pan drippings and make a cream gravy for mashed potatoes or something like that. But technically speaking, it's one of the mother sauces called bechamel. First thing you're going to need is your ingredients measured out. Good ratio is 2 tablespoons of fat, 2 tablespoons of flour to 2 cups of liquid, in this case, milk. All you're going to need on top of that is a saucepan and a whisk. So you can see in my pan that I do have my butter melted. This is unsalted butter because you always want to use unsalted butter when you're cooking. That's a whole nother video in and of itself, but for our purposes, just know unsalted butter. So once the butter is melted, you're going to whisk in the flour. Okay, and you can see once it has gotten all mixed in, all you're looking for it to do, and I know you're thinking, oh, there's no way that that can thicken very much. Oh, just you wait. Now, do you see how it's gotten foamy? This is when we know that we are good to go with a white roux. This means that the flour taste has cooked out enough that it's not going to be chalky, but if we continue cooking it anymore, we're no longer going to have a white roux. We're going to get into blonde or dark territory, and then it's not going to thicken properly, and it's not going to be a bechamel anymore. Okay, so now we need to add our dairy now that we've got our roux ready to go. The biggest mistake people make here is that they add a lot of liquid at a time. I know this looks like a lot of liquid to get in, but I'm telling you right now, the only way to lump-free sauce is by adding that much at a time, because wait till you see what happens. If I had added any more than that, I would have these lumps in there that would not come out. So you're just going to add that tiny little bit, and make sure you're scraping the sides too, because you don't want to leave any flour behind. And once it's incorporated, then you can add a little bit more. But you don't want to add more until it isn't incorporated, or else you're going to have a very lumpy sauce. Okay? You can see. And do you see how each time it's getting a little bit smoother, but I have not increased the amount that I am adding to this pan. More. Keep going just that little bit at a time. Sometimes it's handy to have a buddy do this with you, because that way your arm won't fall off with mixing. Right? I promise you we're not going to have to go the whole way like this. Once we're about halfway in, we'll be able to add all the liquid at once. But for now, we're just going to keep adding tiny bits at a time. And I know you're thinking, oh, I'd be able to just whisk out those lumps if I just added more. Now, no, you wouldn't. Unfortunately, with the liquid ratio too high, you just can't get those lumps out, no matter what you do, unless you put it in a blender, and then that's just a pain. More dishes you gotta clean, then you still gotta strain it. It doesn't thicken properly. It's a thing, okay? So notice how we're starting to look almost like mashed potatoes. This is almost where we can just get all the mixture in, okay? Notice I am increasing the amount of liquid now that I've gotten this thin. But always make sure that you scrape those sides, because a lot of your flour will sit there and live there, and then you won't have a properly thickened sauce, okay? All right, now notice I'm adding more and more. Once I get this thin, I have got a completely lump-free sauce, and so I can add the rest of the liquid in without any concern of there being any lumps at the end. Once you've got all that liquid in there, you're going to whisk occasionally, but not too often. Remember, stirring is not cooking. If you stir too much, you're going to release that heat into the air instead of letting it stay in the pan to do its job. And we want to bring it to a boil. If we want to bring it to a boil, it has to reach that temperature before it'll do that. And by releasing the heat constantly in the air instead of letting it stay in the sauce, you're going to do more harm than good. If you've noticed, I haven't stirred it this entire time, and I assure you it's not burning. Everybody's afraid of burning. If you stir it occasionally, you'll be fine. Put it on a medium heat, let it come to a boil. We'll come back and I'll show you how to finish it. I've let this come to a boil. Now with flour, the longer you boil a sauce, the thicker it's going to get. If you're using cornstarch as a thickener, once it boils, that's it, unless there's evaporation that happens. But flour, if it boils a little longer, it'll get thicker. And you're gonna want to boil this until it gets to what we call nappe. Now be careful not to boil it too rapidly. Milk has a tendency to explode over the top and it's a real mess to clean up. So you're just gonna wanna kind of keep it a little bit above a simmer, and you're gonna wanna make it coat the back of a spoon, which is where our sauces should always be. I'm gonna show you how you can test it to find out. So I've simmered my sauce, and what I want to do to check it is basically I'm going to just dip my spoon into here and run my finger through it. Be careful, it is hot, but if you can hold a line just like that, that is exactly the thickness that you're going to want out of your sauce, so you are good to go. If you're a perfectionist like me, as you're mixing it or checking the sauce, if you find any lumps, the easiest way to do it is to strain it through a fine mesh strainer that will remove any lumps. A chinois is what I have. Those can get a little pricey, but the finer the mesh, the more lump-free your sauce will be. The last step to this is going to be to season it. Salt and pepper are an obvious thing here, but the one thing that nobody ever tells you is the super sneaky ingredient to white sauces is nutmeg. You're just going to use the tiniest smidge. Nutmeg is very powerful and a little bit goes a really long way. So that's it. That's all you need right there. And this will be a perfect bechamel. Season with a little bit of salt. Remember, milk needs salt, right? A little bit of pepper. A lot of people would tell you that you need to use white pepper because it's a white sauce, so that way you don't see the black flecks. That's okay, but you don't really have to, in my opinion. Give it a taste, make sure it tastes correct, and you're good to go. Now you know how to make one of the 5 mother sauces, a little simplified version of it, but it's still a mother sauce called bechamel. I hope you enjoy using it in a lot of your dishes.